What's up, everybody? Thralls here once again. I'm Necrotic.
I'm Jammin John.
And we have yet another album review for you, and yet another one that we were eagerly anticipating because so far every album from this band has been awesome. I expected that trend to continue. We are going over the latest offering from Undeath, More Insane. This also comes out on the 4th of October on Prosthetic Records. This band formed in 2018 in Rochester, New York. This is their third full length overall. I have been a fan pretty much from the start.
Yep.
Legions of a Different Kind. I picked up that album on pretty much a whim, and I heard a lot of people talking about it. It absolutely ripped. Their follow-up, It's Time to Rise from the Grave, was possibly even better. I still regret the fact that I didn't get a chance to review that one. I was on vacation, I think, when that dropped, and I think Miller covered it, and he raved about it, and then I heard it, and it's like, yeah, no, I get it. And for those that don't know, this is just awesome, riffy, old school death metal. And God, this band's just a fuck ton of fun.
Yeah, I got into this band pretty much, I think, in the beginning too. Legions of a Different Kind was a banger, and just super riffy awesomeness. I love this band through and through. I think we've seen them, I think, on every record. These guys are killer, and I expect killer things from this band, and I've yet to be disappointed.
Yeah, and honestly, this, I don't know, it's a little bit different than the previous two, I will admit, but I mean, it still packs a very familiar punch if you liked the first two. It still sounds familiar just in terms of their style, which, dude, this band just has so much fun with riffs and rhythms and just like cadences and such. Like, this band kind of sits somewhere between like more technical death metal bands, like where there's like more flash to the riffs and, you know, all that shit, but they don't come across as like, you know, wanky and they're just kind of doing too much or it's too busy. But they're also more than just meat and potatoes. Like, there's a lot of extra seasoning to their riffs where they frequently harmonize riffs or throw in these amazing off-time patterns. I love their drum work.
Oh,
it's, you know, kind of simplified, but it's not. Like, it's kind of hard to describe.
I mean, he's very much in the pocket. Like, this guy is all about groove, but at the same time being within that pocket. He still throws in a bunch of flashy transitions, turnovers, again, the off-time hitches, like, every riff that's meant to hit hard hits hard because of the way it's accented with the drums, too. Like in the song Cramped Caskets, Necrology. The riff kind of swings and slides. It's a somewhat techy, like, descending riff. When it gets to the apex of that riff, there's a snare hit to start the next hitch. It's accents like that that make it all super entertaining, yet remaining, again, in this really solid pocket.
Yeah, it's somehow both like kind of like a loose sort of play, but it's also ridiculously tight. Like, all these songs are just killer in terms of syncopation. Again, the riff work is always just flashier than hell. But again, like, it's all about the hooks. They like to repeat riffs often. And in terms of like differences that I brought up, one of the main differences I think on here is production. This was done by Mark Lewis, who is known for a little bit more crisper sound. And I mean, I think this band could definitely draw a lot of comparisons to Cannibal Corpse for damn sure, especially after you listen to this.
Yeah. Because
it kind of sounds like the same production that was on Skeletal Domain, which I think is an underrated Corpse album, and it was a good break from, you know, the Eric Rattan production, because he kind of gave it like a bit crisper sound. And I think the band made good use of that just in terms of the production, because you can really hear a lot more of the nuance in the guitars. Like, the guitars really haven't lost any of that just hefty mega crunch that they had. They're just a little bit more prominent, a little bit more clear. The biggest difference are Alex's vocals. Alex, I think he just has a solid death metal roar, and again, with this band and its fun rhythms and grooves, like, he just has a lot of fun doing cadences. But here, I feel like he's moved up his vocals just a notch, but to a good effect, because like the lows become like a little bit more prominent, like the big slam breakdown on Wailing Cadavers. There is just a section where he just drops down and does this hideous, brutal death gurgle on there. And that is complemented with like just an absolutely savage slam breakdown. But he also does like a lot more like high screams in here, and kind of similar to Corpse Grinder in a way.
Just the way that George would go from the low to the high, and just the intonation in his voice too. Like, you can't escape it, and that's not a bad thing. It's just a change.
Yeah, but he has a lot of fun with it, like the revved up, you know, vocals that show up on Disputatious Malignancy. Try saying that 3 times fast. He has this like little accent during these thrashy sections where he kind of like, you know, ups the vocal a little bit each time, and it's this like kind of like quick hit, and it just adds a lot of fun to just the songs in general. And this album and this band in general is just flat out fun to listen to. Like, their riffs are clever, they're creative, the transitions are fun. But this also includes like maybe a little bit more melody than before in some songs like Brandish the Blade and Sutured for War. Some serious comparisons to the Black Dahlia Murder on some of those. Like, you hear more melodic death metal riffs and like tremolo harmonies on there. They're a little bit blastier at times too, which this band's not like the blastiest death metal band. They're more about those grooves and those fun pockets. But they add some really good harmonies in there, and honestly, the lead work on those songs in particular really sing. But both those songs aren't entirely just rooted in melodic death metal. Like, yeah, they're a little bit more melodic, but when you get down to like the breakdowns, which, God, the breakdowns could like fold your face in half. Man, and out of nowhere too, the breakdown that shows up on Sutured for War, man, it is absolutely earth-shattering. Like, that sinks into like a halftime groove, and oh, dude, it's just monolithically heavy.
Straight suffocation, too. And that's another cool thing about these breakdowns is that most of them, I don't want to say they appear twice, but they halftime most of these breakdowns. Like, they'll really get into it, it'll really get heavy, and then they'll be like, hold on, just another minute. Here's a halftime version of that. The breakdown on Cramped Caskets. That one is a nasty, violent hit.
Dude, that whole song, honestly, one of my favorite songs. That's where that suffocation vibe comes out. Comes in with a descending triplet, like, it's isolated, they give you time to rev up, and when that groove hits, it hits hard. But when that breakdown hits, it somehow hits even harder. Like, this is the moment where they kind of like look around at the venue, is like, man, this place was really nice at one point. This is like still kind of like straight up 90s death metal in a way, but again, like, there's just kind of something added to it in the way of like, just like some additional flair or just like some just fun energy to it. But I mean, when they kind of sink into like straight up 90s death metal, like Bounty Hunter is just straight up chug and groove. Honestly, it reminded me a lot of Evisceration Plague. Not a bad thing.
No.
The guitars on that song just hit you like a wall of chug. And I just like the fact that, you know, there's a lot of variety on here despite it being very rooted in 90s death metal. Like, you know, of course, that's like kind of the mainstay, the thing that kind of drives it, but you get like thrashy pockets on here. There's some colder tremolos that show up on Sutured for War, kind of giving it a little bit more sinister vibe. There's also some like dissonant tags on the title track in terms of the riffs, like it kind of just spices them up a little bit.
Or the flat out fun song, Disattachment of a Prophylactic in the Brain.
Gotta cover your brain, Dick. Just saying.
That song, I think, is probably one of the most fun songs on the album. I don't want to say goofy, but it's kind of goofy. It first of all, it starts like Love Shack with the isolated snare drum, like it pop, 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 and that's the first thing you think of. But then, yeah, it's got kind of like a Monster Mash vibe to it.
It's got like this whimsical, dark, spooky melody. Like, I don't know, like, it's not like the, like, oh my god, that sounds like evil as shit. It's honestly, like, it's the same vibe that like Danny Elfman puts off in his scores for like Tim Burton movies. Like, it just kind of has that kind of hook, but it's really well done. And the transitions in that song, I think, are some of the most fun on the entire album because it goes from extremes. Like, you get that kind of like bouncy hook with that fun whimsical riff, and then that gets into like some more like brutal sections, and then like there's some like techie flair, like I don't know if it's tapping, but there's these really cool crawling harmonies on it. There's some thrashy sections on it, and there is a breakdown on there that it feels like a little bit more like metallic hardcore inspired. Like the lead in, it's the rev up, like you're just looking at the pit, like everyone starts spinning.
It's got a big snare drum roll to it.
Dude.
Like, yeah. And then out of that breakdown transitions into a brief like Iron Maiden moment.
Yeah. Like, that song, I think, is probably one of the most creative songs on here. I mean, they're all fun. Like, the riff creativity is great, but that song stands out as just, I don't know, spooky, kind of just death metal fun.
I mean, it's prepping for Halloween time. We're in the month of October here. I think they did well to release this record now because it is devastatingly heavy and evil sounding, but yet at the same time super fun.
I mean, honestly, that's like the album cover. The album cover, like, that's literally the inside of every death metal fan's head. Like, we just have tombstones and some guts, I think. There's no useful thoughts in there. It's just death metal riffs and probably like horror movie quotes. Like, that's about it. I get it. I'm one of you. That's the inside of my brain too.
Yeah.
As for A Negatives, I mean, it doesn't necessarily reinvent the wheel as far as their own sound. It does add some kind of like cool nuances that maybe didn't show up as much in previous albums. It does what they do. And honestly, it's one of those things where I don't want them to change because they always have a riff for you to just sink your teeth into. Mm-hmm. And again, it's that fun rhythmic thing they do with like the off-time rhythms and their quick transitions. I do think with the production, there is something gained and something lost though. And what was lost is kind of that old school 90s grip because they're still playing death metal very much rooted in that sound.
Yes.
And with the more polished mix, it kind of feels like a little bit off, but not like a detrimental way. Like this was still enjoyable as hell.
It just lost some of the filth.
Yeah.
Like it's still gritty, it's still crunchy, it's still heavier than shit, but like it's just missing that little bit of film, like that little bit of murk on everything that's typically found in old school death metal. It doesn't really take away from it either. Like this record is still a flat out banger. It still sounds nasty. Like they did a great job. It's just like a little thing you're like, I'm not sure, but it's still cool.
And admittedly, like it took me a little while to settle into the slightly different vocal approach that Alex is doing in here, but honestly, it works. It sounds fantastic. I like the clarity in there. And plus, I think his cadences are like a little bit more easy to follow too. And I think he just has more fun with them. So yeah, overall, I got to give this 4 stars. Like it's kind of close to the 4.5 mark. I'm not sure if I'm there yet, but it's a 4 minimum. This album is just flat out fun. It lays on like pretty much everything that I love that this band already does, and I think it kind of opens up maybe just like a little bit more. Dude, when this band is heavy and grooving, like it is impossible not to headbang. I challenge you to listen to this album and not bang your head once. You're gonna fail, I think, immediately.
Yeah.
The production, while different, I still think is really solid. Mark Lewis, in terms of like doing cleaner production, I think he's probably one of the better guys. Like he doesn't, take all the grime off of there, but he does take most of it off. Baseline, I mean, if you already like this band, Cannibal Corpse, and I mean, even like a touch of Black Dahlia Murder, Monstrosity, like if you just like riffy death metal, there's a good chance you already like this band. So, I mean, yeah, if you already like that kind of stuff, check this album out. Yeah, these guys are 3-0 as far as I'm concerned in terms of releasing albums. So, yeah, just go ahead and pick this one up.
I agree. This is very close to a 4.5, but I'm also going to give it a very solid 4. I need to spend just a little bit more time with this record before I can kick it up to 4.5, but it's still a banger, dude. And even that lack of filth in the production, again, doesn't really harm it any. Groove. This record is packed full of amazingly chuggy, awesome grooves. Just from song to song, like Nick said, I dare you not to bang your head. They're gonna get you. They're gonna get you in the first 3 minutes of this album. You're gonna have whiplash.
Dude, Cramped Caskets is gonna come on and you're gonna throw your own chairs.
Oh my god, dude.
You're gonna throw all your chairs.
For the hook in Cramped Caskets, we didn't even really touch that. It's got this nasty crowbar hook to it. Lurching, bendy riff. It's nasty. It's probably the hookiest moment on this album, really. I like the fact that it's not overly technical, but still presents itself in that way. All the off-time hitches. These guys love to throw off-time hitches into their riffs to make them more fun, and again, while still remaining solid and in the pocket, it's just enough to catch your ear and to kind of get you dancing while you headbang. This record is out to get you for sure. It is a giant punch in the face just from track to track. It never really loses momentum. There's no dead spots in this record. Albeit I thought there were a couple songs that were maybe a little bit too short, like the ending of Disputatious Malignancy, which just kind of cuts off. And that song's a pretty good banger of a song. But yeah, if you like this band, you're still going to like this band. I've been an Undeath fan since the beginning, and I'm still an Undeath fan. And this record is no slouch in the department of awesome riffs and grooves. Cannibal Corpse, the Black Dahlia Murders, some Crowbar, some Suffocation, all the wonderful things about old school death metal are found all over this record. I genuinely recommend checking it out.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We also now have memberships. We are eventually going to be abandoning Patreon. We're still kind of figuring out how to do that. I'm sure they added steps to make it more complicated, because that's how a lot of websites work.
Yeah.
Either way, we have memberships now. There is only one tier. It is just 99 cents to join. We will be doing members-only chats in terms of live streams. That's, a little bit further off in the future until we get some more members. But we wanted to make this as inclusive as possible. That's why we made it, pretty low priced. And we added our own personal booger troll emoji. There will be other emojis added, but I figured that was the perfect christening for our membership because we're stupid.
Taste the booger flavor.
I know it's in there. But we still also have thrallsmetal.com in terms of like our shop. If you are looking for our t-shirts, both old and new, they are there. The old ones are still discounted, provided we have your size, and we still do have hats. So if you're looking for either one of those things, there's a join button for the memberships, and there is a link for thrallsmetal.com down below.
And as always, tons of stuff coming from Thralls of Metal, album reviews, discography rankings, never-ending discussion forums, multiple segments, Nick's never-ending collection updates, states of metal, is it metal, is it not metal, all the time, in your face, because that's what we do here at Thralls of Metal, and we do it all for you guys. Thank you to all of our family, our friends, our subscribers, everyone that's supported us along the way, who continue to help make this channel grow. We genuinely appreciate all of you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you guys absolutely roll. Again, tons of content coming your way. So one more big thank you because of all your rillage, and we will catch you later.